Hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to be talking about the vril. No, not that type of vril. We're talking about this vril. The real vril. Donald Marshall style. If you don't know who Donald Marshall is, just Google him. Long story short, leaving out a lot of details, the Illuminati, basically has this type of tech using satellites that link your brain waves while you're in a meditative or sleeping state and bring you to another body thousands of miles away, in an unconscious body. So they link your sleeping brain waves with that unconscious body that could possibly like be thousands of miles away. So, and then your consciousness gets transferred into that body, not your sleeping one. So at the age of 5, Donald's Illuminati mom, soul, well, his soul, I guess, basically his soul, his consciousness. So they bring him, so they can bring him in his sleep to this Illuminati underground base, which is, way underground. So we're getting to the real part. We're getting, all the Agartha shit. But this technically isn't Agartha. I'll get to that. So the Illuminati is messing with him, brings him there every night, but he can't remember it because when he wakes up, they also have a technology where they can memory suppress him while he's in his sleep, so he can't remember, in his alternate body, I guess you could say, while he's unconscious and sleep state. But he eventually ends up getting his memories back because the Illuminati's like, it's a whole story, but a whole big story. It's not a story, it's real, but the Illuminati, they mess with him every night. He can't remember it currently. He's 5, so that's a long story, but getting back to vril, why this has to do with vril is while in his sleep, he meets these creatures called the vril. That's what they're called. That's what they call themselves. Now, as he keeps bringing more and more to his base every night, he learns more and more about these vril. Mind you, he's young, so while all of this is happening, he's picking up on things very fast. So basically over a long period of time, like 5 years through 30 years of Donald going to this cloning base, I'll explain what he's learned about these vril, Donald Marshall style. So let me explain. So I'll start with the origins and we'll work up from that. So the vril began millions of years ago, even before cavemen, stuff. And the vril, they would live in caves. So there's 3 different types of these vril. 1 looks like this, 2 looks more like this, and 3, stereotypical gray alien. So the way they would survive is wait till night comes and sneak attack their prey. Yeah, and also they're like reptilian, so that's why they come out at night. They're sensitive to sunlight. So vril don't look like this. They look like this. Okay. We got it. But I'll explain how that image relates to the vril lizard thing. So fast forward, vril survived dinosaur extinction by living way deep. But let me say this. Where the vril were living deep, this wasn't Agartha. Agartha was Atlantis, and the image of this white guy with blonde hair is a nerd's depiction of an Atlantean person. So, we got it down, right? This is vril, this is not vril. Vril, not vril. This is a vril, this is not a vril. Okay, vril, not. Are you with me? Good. So, oh yeah, I left the detail out. Also, the vril can parasite their prey. They can bite with the parasitic bite. It's like neurotoxin, and they can stun them on the ground. And while the prey can't move and stuff, they eject the worm out of their forehead from what's called a proboscis. You can Google it and see it, vril proboscis. But that image you'll get, it's not an actual vril, it's a dried up stingray. But there's a whole nother video about that on my YouTube channel you can check out. It's really short. So yeah, it looks like that though. It looks like, so it's a proboscis on their forehead, and before they shoot the worm out, they calculate where like the eye would be. So why it's important while they calculate where the eye would be when they shoot this worm out is because that worm is their consciousness, and when the worm shoots out of their brain, they lose their consciousness and they swivel all the way like on the skin of its animal or fur, whatever, all the way up into its eye. Then it swivels around the eye, the cortex, what's it called, the You know, like the wire that connects your brain to your eye. They swivel all through that, and they reach a part of your brain, probably like the hypothalamus, since that's like the seat of consciousness. Probably like a hypothalamus or whatever. They basically deject parasitic cells, and then this completely takes over the human. And it's not like a thing where like it's like 50-50, like, oh, you can remember. No, you basically die. You completely die. The vril takes over. And if it doesn't shoot enough cells, I guess it's just not as conscious, but you still die. Basically you just die either way. If the vril gets into your brain, that's it. That's it. So yeah, like I said, they can bite their prey, then take over their brain while they're stunned with the neurotoxin. So yeah, they take over the body, then they live it. Live is that thing that they parasited. So you see what I'm getting at here? These things, they lived past the extinction of dinosaurs by living deep underground, like I said, and saw human civilization and was all like, yo, being a human looks stellar. So at night, these vril would swarm tribes, ancient civilizations, and whatnot, and take over their body. But enough about that, we'll get to more of that later. Let me explain right now the whole Atlantic thing and vril connection. So Donald Marshall, remember him? Doesn't have enough info on the origins of these Atlanteans as he does for the vril. But basically, the Atlanteans called themselves back then the Thule, or Thule. I like saying Thule because it's funnier, but somehow these Atlanteans were more technologically advanced than any other civilization on Earth. And no, it's not because of some magical chakra energy in the Earth, but probably the opposite. That's for another thing. What I'm trying to get at here is where Thule or Atlantis was located was, well, all over, but underground, not above surface. Why? I'm glad you asked. Because Atlanteans liked the vril. Because the Atlanteans wanted to rule over the whole human race, just like the vril. So they would use the vril to take over human bodies. They wanted all the vril to take over basically every human, because vriled quote-unquote humans, or hosts, as Donald Marshall calls them, are dumber and follow orders more. So as the Atlanteans are endorsing and helping the vril secretly inch by inch take over the world, they don't realize that this is actually their biggest mistake. The vril are all like, wait, why not do it ourselves? Why are we helping these guys take over the world when we can just do it ourselves? So the vril go crazy in Thule, start tearing shit up, killing Atlanteans, and stuff gets crazy. Then boom, a bunch of Atlantean bases, or I guess Gartha, blows up one way or another, and all of these Atlanteans just disappeared. So I guess the vril won the war, but now there's only 2 intelligent races on Earth instead of 3. And I say that the vril are intelligent, even though they're only like some more intelligent than an ape. You know, only just like basic speech and stuff. So yeah, fast forward, vril are taking over more civilizations now, which explains the burning of witches, warlocks, the Knights Templar raiding underground cave systems searching for relics, and then suddenly going all evil, and human sacrifices in Aztec. And you know, so much serpent snake worship, snake stuff in cultures, the spawn of creepy secret societies, vril society, Thule society, Thule society, and also nowadays why so many news hosts and anchors, politicians, and celebrities act so funny. Call it demonic possession, call it whatever, but just know the real vril isn't some energy, it's a parasite taking over another living thing's brain. So yep, anyways, past the vril taking over ancient civilizations and newer ones after Christ's death, we fast forward to April 20th, 1889. Adolf Hitler's born, yeah. You already know the whole story, you know, failed art school, rose to power, but either after or in his rise to power and infamy, the secret society called the Thule Society hits him up and is like, yo, there's some ancient power in Tibet. So Hitler's like, sure enough, okay. So he sends a whole squad all the way to Tibet. They meet up with the monks and the elders or whatnot and ask them about this ancient power. And they're all like, oh, these things would know more about this than we do. The Nazis are like, what things? So they take the Nazis in these tunnel systems to meet these creepy crawly vril, specifically vril type 1s. And I guess one of the Tibetans translates for the Nazis to these vril lizards, and the vril type. And the vril type 1 they ask, they ask for a map. So one of the Nazis gets a map, and the vril uses claw to point to a place in Antarctica. I'm guessing where it pointed would be the place Nazis called New Schwabenland. So the Nazis were like, okay, cool. Traveled back to Germany and told Hitler, the magic power is actually in Antarctica. Oh, and also, there's semi-intelligent troglodyte lizards basically nobody knows about called the vril. So upon hearing this, Hitler starts a very expensive expedition to Antarctica. They go all around. They find these old Atlantean or Thule bases underneath Earth's surface that are totally abandoned with leftover high tech. But then as they keep going underground, searching for more bases, more tech in Antarctica, they come across not the vril type 1s we were talking about earlier, but the vril type 3. Now the vril type 3 are a bit smarter than the type 1s, but still not as smart as humans. So when they come across the Nazis, they're saying this: we'll give you more abandoned Thule-based locations and secrets in exchange for this. You keep us secret and hidden from the human race, and you build underground cities for us to stay in and supply us with humans and animals to eat and take over. What do you think the Nazis said? Yes or no? Who am I kidding? Of course they said yes. So they build all these underground cities and hold their end of the deal. And that's when they go from just flying saucers that, kind of crash sometimes, to shit like the Bell, which Donald Marshall says can teleport you anywhere there's another Bell. Hey, kind of like that thing from Black Ops Zombies. Kind of looks like it. And also cloning, satellite, and microchip technology, along with many other crazy tech shit these toolies had. So meanwhile, the Nazis are back engineering and getting this tech. Humans and animals are getting carted down tunnels to be eaten and taken over by vril. Other countries such as USA and Russia catch wind of this tech, and they start back engineering some too. This is where Project Paperclip comes from, which is where all the Area 51 stuff comes from. Flying saucers, gray aliens. So like all major leaders of major countries at the time learn about these vril and want to talk to them for technology. But of course, the vril have a price. More horrendously evil deals are made. Even children are carted down these tunnels. The more evil the deal is, the more info they get. So now World War II ends. All the major countries know of or have some of this advanced tech stuff. And so you remember that tech they use to communicate in unconscious bodies or unconscious clones that turn conscious when the satellite links their brainwaves to the unconscious sleeping body of the unconscious body? Well, they start basically building these underground bases in cities, not only for the vril, but for themselves too. And they all meet up there in the sleep using a combination of unconscious clones, satellites, and microchip tech. And they start doing all this evil shit in these bases that Donald Marshall says still persist to this day. Oh, yeah, and also, like I said before at the start, the vril hang around in these bases, which makes the place even more decrepit and evil. So yeah, Donald Marshall claims still to this day people are getting taken over by vril on plans led by corrupt organizations. There's still these underground cities, and still the cloning bases. But really, what do you believe? Personally, I think it's all true. After all, the Foo Fighters or UFOs seen during World War II were rampant, and other countries wanted Nazi scientists to help them is documented too. They've even found paintings from tribes and, statues, carvings, whatnot, of things that, they look like real. I'll show some on screen. But yeah, it's all up to what you think, and honestly, bro, I think the vril are real, and they're gonna have to stop fucking with us or they're gonna get it. The vril is not some magical force within the earth, but vril is something very evil that has the power to completely take over another living thing's mind. Now you know the vril. Explained Donald Marshall style, so, that's it.